The history of the United States began long before its official founding. The land that is now known as the U.S. was originally inhabited by various indigenous peoples, who lived in harmony with nature for thousands of years. From the nomadic tribes of the Great Plains to the settled civilizations of the Southwest, these groups developed their own languages, traditions, and social structures. The first significant contact with Europeans occurred in 1492 when Christopher Columbus, under the Spanish flag, arrived in the Caribbean. His voyages led to the gradual exploration and colonization of the Americas. Over the next few centuries, the Spanish, French, Dutch, and English established settlements in North America. By the early 17th century, the English had founded their first permanent settlement in Jamestown, Virginia, in 1607, marking the beginning of British colonization in the New World. 13 colonies and the seeds of revolution. By the mid-18th century, the 13 English colonies along the eastern seaboard of North America were thriving economically, but tensions with Great Britain were beginning to rise. The British government imposed taxes on the colonies to pay for the costs of wars in Europe, but the colonists resented these measures, believing they had no representation in Parliament. This discontent led to a series of protests, including the famous Boston Tea Party in 1773, when American colonists, disguised as Native Americans, dumped British tea into Boston Harbor as an act of defiance. The British responded with harsh laws known as the Coercive Acts, which only intensified the desire for independence. In 1775, the American Revolutionary War began, as the colonies took up arms against Britain. Over the next 8 years, the colonists, led by figures like George Washington, fought for their freedom. With help from France and other allies, the Americans achieved a decisive victory, culminating in the Treaty of Paris in 1783, which recognized the United States as an independent nation. 3. The creation of a nation, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. After gaining independence, the new nation faced the challenge of establishing a government. The Articles of Confederation, the first constitution, proved ineffective, leading to the drafting of a new constitution in 1787. The U.S. Constitution established a federal government with a system of checks and balances and guaranteed certain individual rights. In 1791, the Bill of Rights, consisting of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, was added to protect fundamental freedoms such as freedom of speech, religion, and the right to a fair trial. These documents laid the foundation for the democratic system that would govern the nation. 4. Expansion and conflict, the growing pains of a young nation. The 19th century was marked by rapid territorial expansion, which shaped the future of the United States. The Louisiana Purchase of 1803, in which the U.S. bought vast territories from France, nearly doubled the size of the country. As settlers moved westward, conflicts arose with indigenous peoples who had lived on these lands for centuries. The United States also faced external challenges, including the War of 1812 against Britain, fought over issues like trade restrictions and the impressment of American sailors. Although the war ended in a stalemate, it fostered a sense of national pride and unity. 5. The Civil War and the Reconstruction of the Nation. Internal conflicts over the issue of slavery between the North and South ultimately led to the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. The Southern states, where slavery was integral to the economy, seceded from the Union and formed the Confederacy. The North, led by President Abraham Lincoln, fought to preserve the Union and abolish slavery. The war ended with the defeat of the South, but the nation faced the difficult task of reconstruction. Lincoln was assassinated before the war's end, and the country had to reconcile the North and South while ensuring the rights of newly freed African Americans. 6. Industrialization and global influence. After the Civil War, the U.S. entered a period of rapid industrialization. Factories, railroads, and new technologies quickly transformed the country. By the late 19th century, the United States had become one of the leading industrial nations in the world. Technological innovations, such as the electric telegraph, telephone, early automobiles, and airplanes, rapidly changed the world. America also became an important player on the global stage, particularly during World War I, 1914 to 1918, when the U.S. joined the Allies. 7. The Great Depression and the New Deal. In 1929, the Great Depression devastated the global economy. High unemployment, bankrupt banks, and factory closures created severe social challenges in the U.S. But during this crisis, President Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, a series of programs aimed at economic recovery, job creation, and social safety nets. 8. World War II and the Cold War. In 1941, after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. entered World War II. Victory over the Axis powers, including Germany and Japan, positioned the U.S. as one of the two leading superpowers, alongside the Soviet Union. After the war, the Cold War began, a period of geopolitical tension between the U.S. and the Soviet Union that lasted until the late 1980s. Both countries possessed nuclear weapons, and their rivalry played out in all spheres, from the arms race to space exploration and diplomatic crises. 9. Modern times, the 1990s to the present. In the 1990s, following the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union, the U.S. emerged as the world's sole superpower. However, new challenges of terrorism, wars in the Middle East, and economic crises became the focal points of the 21st century. The September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks had profound impacts, leading to wars and shifting global politics. Today, the United States remains a powerful country, but it faces constant internal struggles over race, economics, and foreign policy. It continues to play a critical role on the global stage, though its future will be shaped not only by its historical achievements but also by its ability to resolve contemporary challenges. Conclusion. The history of the United States is not just a story of war, revolution, and political change. It is also a story of dreams, struggles for freedom, and equality. The U.S. has become a place where anyone had a chance to realize their potential, where new ideas and cultures merged, and despite numerous challenges, the country remains one of the most dynamic in the world.